that song was really, 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 really fun to write, and we just had a blast doing it. I had the worst speakers ever for it. Like, I would always run to the car, like, kid you not, probably like 10 to 15 times. Ended up going back and forth with me, then eventually ending asking for the files, and then we worked on it together, and then it became Euphoria. Don't be afraid to fail, and it's not a big deal if your first 12 to 100 tracks suck.
They dropped you straight in at the deep end, didn't they? That's not even like a small toilet venue.
It was insane, man. I was like, oh, okay, like bus tour, cool. Like, I don't know what it's gonna be like. Get in there and I'm like, yo, this is like a bus that I like remember watching like interviews of like Demi Lovato and the Jonas Brothers like in their tour bus, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm living it. Not to try and be better than anybody else. Try and be better than yourself the day before.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the video. Today we are very fortunate to have Candace Sosa on the channel today. And if you are new and you don't know Candace is a songwriter, producer, and artist who has written for BTS, TXT, WayV, and Depend on You, which is on the latest Twice release, which came out yesterday. Candace, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm not doing bad. How has the reception been for the track so far?
Honestly, I just woke up, so I don't know. But I'm excited to see what people are saying.
People are pretty excited. People are very into it. And basically a lot of people are telling me to check out the B-sides. And that is one of the more, let's say, popular ones that I'm being told to check out. What was the process like from start to finish?
So when I came to LA, I met these two guys, James and Sean, through Swivel. He had been working with them. And we just like instantly clicked. They became my homeboys. Like, we still hang out and we write all the time. And what had ended up happening was Swivel was like, hey, write some stuff, see what you guys can come up with. Maybe we can pitch it for K-pop and see what happens. So we got in the studio together and we just kind of vibed out and came up with this song. Sean produced it and then jumped in the booth, did some melodies. Me and James and Sean all together collectively wrote the English lyrics. Then Swivel wanted to make some adjustments, so we made some adjustments production-wise. And then from there, it got pitched around, and it's been in the folder for a while. So this was written like basically when I first moved here, which was like about 2 years ago. So it'd been circling around. Nobody really said anything about it. And then finally I get an email from a guy who I send the K-pop stuff to, and he was like, hey, Twice wants this record. And I was like, oh snap. All right, got one.
That's a good email. That is a good email to receive.
Yeah, and you know, like, and you never know, because you get those emails and you're just waiting and up in the air because you never know until you get the contract, until you actually hear their vocals on it. But that song was really, 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 really fun to write, and we just had a blast doing it. So
I mean, so it was 2 years ago you wrote that?
Yeah, about, maybe, you know, a little bit less, but yeah, about right when I had moved here is when I got back in the studio with them, and we just like knocked a few out, and yeah. I
think it's like a big part of this whole pitching process is just numbers and patience, right? Just the two things you really need. And it's testing, isn't it? Emotionally, like, I mean, for me personally, I had a real tough time with it last year where I was just like, just hating everything, don't you? You just like constantly checking your inbox like crazy person, and you're just like, oh yeah, it's just the worst, isn't it? And then you get that one email like that one, and you're just like, oh man, it's so worth it. I don't even care. Why was I upset a minute ago? I don't even care anymore. Like, you completely feel like,
right. And you know what? It comes out of the blue too. You like never expect it to be that song that this group takes, or you know, it's always kind of like this unexpected thing. But I think, because I would have never imagined that a group like Twice would do that song. Because if you had heard the original demo, it sounds much more like a solo record. But to hear that they wanted to do it, I was like, oh, that's really cool that they want to take this in like a different direction and do it their own way. And I think they did really great, and it sounds awesome. And I'm looking forward to actually finally fully waking up and going through the comments and hearing what everybody has to say about it. But sounds like it's good so far.
With the process of the track, if you can remember back 2 years now, was there any sort of like huge sort of obstacles or challenges that you had to face and get over in the writing process with this?
For working with those boys, it just kind of comes naturally with them. we just vibe really well. So we got in the studio and Sean was cooking up the beat and getting like a basic outline for it. And then I'm noodling on guitar. So then I add some guitar and whatever. I don't know, like the track kind of just made itself and it kind of came together super organically. And I don't know how to describe the sound that this song has because it's kind of different, but it's also very modern and not different. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I feel like it taps into a very specific emotion. And I feel like bittersweet, I think, is a good way to describe the way that it happened. And I found with your vocal, and I want to talk to you about this, is how your vocal is very complementary to that emotion. And I've noticed after sessioning quite a bunch of your tracks, and this is something that I really admire in you, is that you've managed to, you can tell it's you, even though it's like a K-pop boy group or a K-pop girl group. You have this such an identity with your, I think it's either your melodic writing or your tone or your register, wherever, you know, where you sing and stuff, but it sounds like Candace Sosa. I think it's really cool because for me, when you're constantly pitching, it's very easy to lose your musical identity.
right.
And I have this problem all the time. You know, when you want to write your own song, you sit there and you're like, what do I sound like again? I don't even know, because you're so used to writing for someone else.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think all of that kind of comes from my influences growing up, you know, like I think what you'll be able to take away from this is like my melodies and my choice of cadence and whatnot. Like it all stems from like really like Justin Bieber, Jonas Brothers, Demi Lovato,
Nice.
a little bit of like even John Mayer, and then like pop punk music. So we've got like a mixture of kind of all the like these really emotional yet still poppy, but that bittersweet symphony basically, because it's like there's a longing in a lot of these people's music. And you know, there's longing in everybody's music, but I feel like specifically the artists that I chose to listen to and get familiar with and study, it just kind of brought that out of myself. How do you put this? Extremely influenced by my brother's music taste because he was older than me and he was finding new music and whatever. So I grew up on like, well, from the beginning, like Backstreet Boys, you know, but that's not pop punk. My brother used to listen to like Green Day, Sum 41, and Yellow Card.
Oh, amazing.
Then we have like the later bands. Like I used to listen to State Champs, a little bit of Mayday Parade because of my friend. You know, it stems. And then I think the Jonas Brothers have actually their roots are a little bit more punk than if you actually know them from the beginning. So yeah, that's kind of
that's really dope. Yeah, I mean, for me, I was exactly the same. I was in a punk rock band. My bands were, you know, Blink-182, New Found Glory, Ataris. Was a huge fan of Ataris. Yeah, and then because, like you're saying, they have the melody. It's disguised with real heavy guitars and whatnot, but the actual vocal melodies are still quite poppy. And
exactly.
You don't lose that. You just always appreciate that sort of like songwriting. No matter how heavy the guitars can be, you can still translate it effectively into pop music.
You know, and I also think another good melodic reference for a lot of just pop records, like you ever listen to just like country and hear the amazing melodies? Yeah, maybe it's slow, maybe it's not your vibe, maybe the twang in their voice isn't really for you, but the melodies, man, like
I'm all about the storytelling. It's just so much storytelling in the lyrics.
I know, right? I love it. Yeah, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. So one thing with the tracks as well is, are there any, right? Have you got any go-to songwriting techniques that you're like, I know this is going to work and I'm just going to drop it on the song?
As for production, I'm like super huge on transition sounds. So yeah, like, so building not only the feeling within the actual instruments and the music and the synths and the guitar and whatever, but really bringing in elements that will make you feel like that kind you know what I'm saying? Like it's those risers, those like transition effects. Like I think those are so important. And that's one of the big things for me. Like even when I'm doing just a rough demo while people are here at like for a session, I'm still going through those transition sounds so I can like feel a vibe, so they can feel a vibe, you know? So
I guess imagine if you ever did a sample pack, it would be Candace's risers. just like 50 gigs worth of risers, man. That would
I need to make my own. So that's the thing. I pull from Splice, but I should just be making my own because I can I know how to fuck up some audio pretty good.
Oh, really? How come? Were you like doing more like the creative sound design then in production?
A transition sound that has like a tone in it, right? Turn some distortion up on that, like make it real weird. And then also too, there's this plugin that I use called Shaper Box. It's by Cable Guys.
Yeah, I've got that. Yeah.
Even in vocal melodies, when I struggle, I can sing like a really legato like note, just like long and steady and whatever, but then I'll throw it through the Shaper Box time on the pitch like this one, and it just makes this interesting thing, and then just EQ it, add some distortion. Like distortion is like saturation for me, but yeah.
Are you sausage fat now?
I don't have it on this computer. I have it on the computer that I'm talking to you on, so I haven't did much. But
what's your go-to saturation distortion plugin then?
Softube. It's
nice.
Saturation. I love it, and like you can just pile that baby on multiple times and make it just sound like a mess.
Yeah, I think for me, I have like a few techniques that I always go to from Splice, of course, because I practically live on that website. But so good, right? It's so good. I use like a sample of like an arena crowd like cheering, and then just drop it into the chorus, and it's just like white noise that can cover all those frequencies that the other instruments aren't using. But it's so quick, it's so easy, and it's really noticeable that it just pads out your chorus really nicely.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So that's a good thing that you brought that up, because I think I, like you, similarly, I like to incorporate like nature sounds. So I had a song that I was writing for myself that started with wind chimes, and it ends with wind chimes. So it's like the beginning and the end, and it just kind of like all makes sense. And also, even like you said, kind of using like a crowd as white noise. I'll use rain. And like I remember there's a song that I did, and I did rain almost kind of working as a hi-hat in a way, but it was tremoloing from side to side. So it was just,
really?
But also having a hi-hat. Yeah, it's just really weird shit. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. So anyone watching at home, you heard it here first.
Yeah, just rain and everything.
Just rain and everything. Rain and crowds, right?
Yep.
One question, nice and easy for you. How did you get started in songwriting and production? So you already touched on being influenced by your brother's music. Your brother clearly has very good taste in music. So where did it go from there into actual songwriting? Did you start as an artist, for example, move in? How did it work?
So initially I had started playing piano when I was like 8 years old, lost it because I was just like, I can't read music and all I'm doing is memorizing everything.
I know that, yeah.
I should probably stop taking lessons. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Then my brother, because he was into all that music and stuff, he got a guitar, which is actually the guitar that I used for Euphoria on BTS. I stole it from him. Nice. He got that guitar and he was taking lessons, and I thought it was so cool. And what ended up happening was when I went to my first concert ever in 2006 for the Jonas Brothers. Again, it comes all back to them.
It's all about Jonas Brothers.
Really. It is. So I saw them live, and it was right before they had really blown up. This was 2006. We even got to meet them, although I was so starstruck. I was just like, but I remember seeing Nick Jonas on stage and just being like, oh my God, that's what I want to do. So I went home, stole my brother's guitar, started teaching myself some chords, begged my parents for a guitar for Christmas, got guitar lessons, and then from there, once I learned all the Jonas Brothers songs, I started trying to figure out my own way to like express myself and write myself. So then that happened around age 11, and then from 11 till about like 17, I was like in like a band, and then I started like using garage band, just doing acoustic guitar, vocals, and then like another acoustic, like just in GarageBand. And that's kind of how it all started. And then really when I got into like producing heavy, I had been in a band when I was from 18 to 21. It was like a post-hardcore band.
Oh, amazing. Is any of that online? Is any of those, you got any MVs online? Oh, I'm going to have to put a link in the description. If you...
No. Oh my God, I was such a scene kid, man. My hair
So
is
was I. Were you on MySpace?
Not, I wasn't huge on it, but a lot of my friends were. But yeah, I do remember the MySpace days.
What
Yeah.
happened? What happened? I don't know.
Well, no, isn't it like a music platform now that's completely not even relevant?
Yeah, I heard didn't Justin Timberlake buy it and then it kind of flopped or something, but either way, I don't know. It used to be awesome. It used to be awesome. So yeah,
Yeah.
if you were like scene kid in this hardcore band and then that's where you basically started by doing band demos, is that how it kind of developed then?
Yeah, so I was doing all the band demos. I was having my buddies come over and do the guitar parts. Also, I was doing a lot of the guitar parts myself. And then I figured out how to like do program drumming and do it well. I learned how to drum a little bit from my brother as well because he picked up the drums. So I kind of picked up like just patterns that I would need to use so that I could like draw them in. I also had an electric drum kit for a while, so I was actually playing the drums. But from there, I started listening to EDM, Illenium, Dabin, who the hell else? Slushy. Like I was really into that like electronic sound. So I was trying to incorporate that into the band stuff. And also, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the band Paris, Pvris.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they had a lot of those electronic elements and it really inspired me. So I just ended up trying to take up producing and getting this like big wide sound, and I got sick of the band. And I was like, yo, I'm gonna go do my own thing. And so I tried to do a solo project, and that's when I had the song called Time to Kill. Well, it was called Killing Time at first. It was kind of like a festival-y EDM track that I was gonna like release under a different alias, a different name. But then I couldn't get the mix right, and I was really obsessed with mixing for a moment.
No.
To an audio
It's a curse, isn't it? It's a curse. It's a complete curse.
I had the worst speakers ever for it. Like they were great speakers to like hang around with, like friends and drink and hang out. But they were these like treble things, and then like just it was like a Bose system, right? But the treble response was so high that it was like I could never tell. I would always run to the car, like kid you not, probably like 10 to 15 times. So it just would sound ass, basically. So then that's when I reached out to Swivel because I was like, hey, I have this song. I can't get the mix right. I had watched his seminar on him breaking down the mix of Chainsmokers, Closer. And I was like, oh, man, I'm like doing everything to overcompensate for like the shit that I'm making. And I might need some help from this guy. So hit him up on his contact page on his website. And then that's kind of how that all came about. He ended up going back and forth with me, then eventually ended asking for the files, and then we worked on it together, and then it became Euphoria.
That's basically the first track that got you into K-pop.
Yeah. Awesome.
That is a pretty solid first track to go to as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it turned out really amazing. Like, yeah, it was crazy. Like,
what's been the reception been like? Like, I mean, how have the army been about it, and like, what's the general feedback been overall? I mean,
I've met many friends because of Euphoria, the song. Like
really?
One of my friends I have in Scotland who I might meet when I'm out there with Jess, he reached out to me. We bonded over cats, of course. But also he was, you know, he's really a huge fan of BTS and loves Euphoria. And that's how he reached out to me. Same with one of my good friends here in LA, Rita. She hit me up and was like, hey, just wanted to say, like, love your work, love Euphoria, it's really great. And then I was like, yo, want to hang out? Like, I'm new to LA. And she was like, what? So yeah, I mean, it's really connected a lot of people with me, and there's a lot of BTS fans that do talk to me about it, and it's honestly, it's gotten the best response ever. I couldn't have even expected how it's turned out. So
yeah, I mean, I've only had a few interactions with the army, but they have been one of the nicest and supportive fandoms that I've met, especially with my YouTube channel, and I did a BTS mashup the other day, and some of the girls reacted to it, and it was really cool, and forever appreciative of that. If someone's starting production, what would be your top 3 tips for starting someone who's new?
My thing, I guess, that really helped me was listening to my favorite songs, and like every time that I listen, try and notice something different that I haven't before. So like really pick apart the track, you know, maybe it's as simple as like what we were talking about before, a transition sound, or maybe it's the fact that there was a shaker that was panning left and right, like, or you know, why was this guitar part different on this side versus on this side? Like, it's just kind of really, really finite listening, tear it apart, try and figure out what they're doing and try and recreate it, because you'll never be able to exactly the way that they did, but you will become like, you'll be able to come out with something in the realm. And if you don't, you still were able to use some technique that you heard from the record. So just listen deeply. Also, don't be afraid to fail and try shit. It's not a big deal if your first 12 to 100 tracks suck. Like, it literally doesn't matter, as long as you keep doing it and stay persistent. And
your mum will always love it anyway. Your parents will always love it. You'll be fine.
Yeah, well,
you playing it to your parents. Yeah. Well, yeah, in theory, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you show it to your parents, they're like,
we'll put it on the fridge, gold star, and they throw it away in the bin or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think third piece of advice is not to try and be better than anybody else. Try and be better than yourself the day before. So, because I struggled with that when I first moved to LA. I was like, oh man, everybody's doing so much other stuff and they're just better than me. But it's like, what does it matter? Because I'm never going to be them. They're never going to be me. I have something to offer that they don't, and they have something to offer that I don't. So might as well listen to what they're doing, be inspired, listen to what other people are doing, and just try and be better the next day, the next day, the next day. And you'll see progress like no other, you know?
That's really cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And like, can I ask as well, like, was there a moment sort of in your career so far that it was like the career defining moment? Like, things are never going to be the same again after this point?
Well, you know, I think honestly, for me, because I'm also an artist, I think a big turning point in my career was when I was on the Armin van Buuren track. Because not only, like, I didn't really listen to that type of music, but my family did. Like, my mom and my dad, they both knew who he was and really liked his music. And they were like, oh my God, you're going to be on an Armin track? Like, and I was like, I mean, I got it. I'm doing it. I don't know. We'll see. And then it finally comes out. And then they asked me to go on tour. Like, my life will never be the same because I know now what tour is like. And there's nothing I'd rather do. You know what I mean?
Oh, awesome. So that was the first time, that's the first time you went on tour then? Was that one?
Yeah.
They dropped you straight in at the deep end, didn't they? That's not even like a small toilet venue.
No, it was insane, man. And I never thought, you know, I thought, okay, when I start my project and start getting my name out there, I'm going to have to rent a van and like hire some people to like play with me and whatever. No. Armin's like, yo, we're doing this bus tour. We want you on it for 9 dates. I ended up being on it for 11, which was sick because they let me do it.
Awesome.
And I was like, oh, okay, like bus tour, cool. Like, I don't know what it's going to be like. Get in there and I'm like, yo, this is like a bus that I like remember watching like interviews of like Demi Lovato and the Jonas Brothers like in their tour bus, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm living it. It was
that's
crazy.
So sick. The first gig of the tour is absolutely terrifying, and then you just get into that groove after like the third or fourth show. You're kind of like, yeah, I know what I'm doing now.
So here's a crazy story. So the first night was great, but yeah, there was like a lot of built up like, oh my God, I peed like a million times before I went on stage. And I was like, and I was the first one to go on. There were four vocalists that came along, and I was the first one in the set, so I had to start the show. So I was like, okay, and I had never used in-ears, so I'm just like trying to like make sure everything doesn't like fall off and make sure I look okay, and then I like get out there and I'm like, whoa, yeah. Start getting into it, and then I see a girl up, and this was in Boston. I saw a girl up in the balcony area on the right, and as I walked over to the right side of the stage, she was singing the lyrics, and that moment right there, I was like, I got this. This is amazing. And then from there, like all my nerves were like gone. Like there was obviously like there's going to be a little bit of nerves before I go on stage every time. Yeah, after that, everything kind of fell into place. But then the second night of the tour, I got super, super bad food poisoning.
Oh, no.
So I couldn't perform on the second night of the show, which was in Brooklyn. But luckily there were 2 shows in Brooklyn. So I got to perform the next night. But I had food poisoning for 4 days after. So I was not able to even keep food, water down. Like it was really
Really bad.
Yeah, so for my
Wow.
first tour experience, it was like hell, but also heaven.
All right, guys. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be asking Candace your questions. First one is from Ryan on my Discord server, and he would like to know, are there any experiences or habits that have been unexpectedly helpful in working within writing or production?
Every producer is different, and every session is different. Like you could start from drums, you could start from bass, you could start from keys or guitar. For me, I often like to start with at least like a melodic sample or something that I can really base the rest of the song on.
All right, so this one's from Saturday Wine. What surprised you the most when you started working with the top producers?
I don't know. I mean, it's really intimidating, I'll be honest. What surprised me most about working with the professional people that I have, they're all just people like you and me, Like we all get together in a room and bullshit for like the first half hour, talk about like what's been going on. And
Cats, obviously.
Yeah, always cats.
Yeah.
Always cats, especially at my place.
Yeah.
I mean, really, everybody's a normal human being, and we put these people on pedestals because we don't see their day-to-day life and we just hear their amazing work. But really what it comes down to is we're all people, we're all eating, drinking to survive, we're all trying to find love. It's like, it is kind of a weird awakening when you do realize that, because then you can be comfortable.
Well, one thing that always knocked me back with writing with some people is the speed people can just write and just not get emotionally connected to certain parts that they like, and they're like, I don't care, actually let's finish the song, and you're like,
that is a good point. Yeah, like not being precious about anything and really opening your mind and not being like just really having it be a collaborative effort.
Yeah, and I think this is something that is a real big difference between an artist and a songwriter. In my experience, what I've seen is that I can understand why artists find it hard not to let go with certain parts that they like, because as a songwriter, it is a numbers game, isn't it? It is how fast can you turn stuff over, and normally you can't get too possessive of parts because some other writer is going to come in. It's always a we effort, and there's more than likely your parts are going to get axed in some way.
I think it's good to exercise the idea of what so-and-so says and says, okay, maybe we should try this, try it. And then if ultimately you don't like it, then go with your gut and say, no, I think this is right. I think this is right. And then if you can't reach a compromise, then you will have to compromise. You know what I mean? Otherwise you're just a dick.
Yeah. This one's from Tranquil Banana. Your voice is super cool. My cue is, do you sing like that naturally, or have you practiced getting into the lower registers and having a lower sounding voice?
That's a really good question. No, I haven't practiced getting my voice to sound any way. There are certain techniques I will use to sing in certain registers of my voice. For example, in the lower register, I get compared to Justin Bieber a lot because of how I sing in the lower register, because to me it just sounds better when I do it this certain way. But my voice has just kind of always been my voice. It's like, I like to put it as it's kind of an androgynous voice. So it's like you don't necessarily know, okay, there's moments where you're like, oh, female. There's moments where you're like, I don't know. Like, and then there's moments that like, no, that's a dude. Like, it's weird. I kind of got blessed with this weird unique tone, but I'm not complaining. I don't know.
I mean, it's obviously working for you, right?
I mean, I don't really sound cocky, but I really do enjoy my voice, and a lot of the people that I've worked with have said many compliments on it, so I think it's working, and I don't know, this just is my voice.
Right, so this is from Erica. Because you are so involved and intimately familiar with the creation of the melody, how does it feel to help create some of the most iconic and memorable parts of many recent popular K-pop releases songs in general?
It's surreal, man. Like, I went to see the BTS movie a couple weeks ago, Break the Silence, and also just being with people who do really enjoy BTS and like their music and like the songs that I have been a part of. It's so crazy. I don't know how to feel. Like, honestly, I just feel very grateful and thankful that I had this opportunity in the first place and it's gotten as far as it has. I don't know. It's every time I get asked a question like this, I don't know what to say because I just become flustered of like, oh yeah, this is like an actual thing, you know?
As a fun question, without saying what you do, how would you badly explain your job?
That's great. I like that a lot. Okay, let's see. I make sounds with my voice and it sounds good to me.
What's your go-to to get over a creative slump?
Okay, yeah. So this happens more often than you think. My thing is take a few days off, watch a shitload of TV, and watch movies that kind of intrigue my mind and get my mind flowing in a different creative way. I love to like get inspiration from movies because I think they portray such a strong emotion depending on the movie and depending on the actors. But in a really great movie, you can get a vibe and a feeling from it that I can then translate to, you know, production or singing, whatever it might be. And also get out of the house, go do some and then come back and don't do music. Like,
that's really interesting.
You know, for me, it's like, sometimes it can be like a 3-day break. Sometimes it can be a week. Sometimes it can be 2 weeks because I literally can't do it. That's my body's way of telling me, hey, it's okay. Slow down, relax, do what you need to do for yourself. And then you'll be able to write again. And then everything I come back with, you know, it might not be amazing, but a lot of it is like, it's.
So this one is from Kieran on YouTube. My question would be, what is the best way to get music in front of an A&R in the Korean industry, assuming you have finished tracks with a top line and lyrics in English? What next?
It kind of sucks because for me, it happened really, like, I'm really lucky in the way that it happened. And I'll be honest about that. Because through Swivel, I was able to get these connections and whatnot. And through some of Swivel's friends, they then connected me to other people who work in the K-pop industry. And then I've built my own relationship with them. Granted, I need to do this more, but even if it's just checking up on the people themselves and saying, hey, how are you doing? Like, not even like, hey, I've got this song, like whatever, just, hey, checking in, how are you doing? Keeping that relationship, because in the music industry, everything is so business and dog eat dog, and it's like, come on, can we just all be people in love? Like, I sound like such a hippie, but I mean, really, I think that's the best way to keep those connections and keep people coming back to you and stuff.
Great question here. What is it like being a female music producer? I read a statistic somewhere that only 2.1% of producers are female.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of female producers, but I think it's kind of empowering to be part of that percentage. And I also think that as a female producer, you kind of do have to earn your respect, although, which it does kind of suck because, you know, I feel like it's a very like manly world that we live in, you know, but when it really comes down to it, if you have the skill set to provide and show for it, then you're going to earn your respect in that way anyway. And even if you aren't at that level to necessarily impress everybody, you still are showing that you're putting in time. As long as you've put in time and really like honed in on your craft, I think there's nothing better than that. Like, as a female in the music industry, being a producer, I think that just says a lot about who you are. And I think that there needs to be more of us. And I think we just need to do it and take over the world. Let's just go.
Awesome. I do feel as well, like in the last kind of like 10 years or so, it is changing. Like the world is becoming more forward thinking, and I'm personally seeing a lot more female producers than I was 10 years ago. And it's not just producers, right? Mix engineers as well as any sort of skill set.
It's great. I think there needs to be more women involved, especially because of, I mean, and I'm not trying to get into this right now, but because of how things have gone for females in the past in the music industry, not necessarily producers, but because of these situations that women get put in when they are in a studio session, I think it will make women feel a lot more comfortable going to another woman to produce. And I say that because I have friends who have dealt with certain unfortunate unfortunate circumstances, and it breaks my heart to see that and to know that that's out there. But I think the more and more that females start to believe that they can do it, the more and more females as a whole in the music industry will become a lot more powerful, and just you'll see a lot more of them.
All right, I've got one from Charlie Doan. What are your go-to plugins / VST to use for K-pop or music in general?
So I have the Slate plugins.
Nice.
The Anna synth, I think, is so good.
Oh man, I love. Sorry, I'm geeking out here. Carry on.
So
sorry.
I know we're nerding out right now.
I'm just like, oh man, those 808s that come. It just works, man. The attitude just works. That's what I absolutely love about it. So good. Sorry, sorry guys. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's so amazing. If you don't have it, get it, because it's great. Yeah. I also think that I work in Logic. I think the Alchemy VST is also really great. I also love, I think this goes without saying for most producers and mix engineers and whatever. H-Delay, Valhalla Verb. What else? And then my favorite, Soft Tube Saturation Knob. Oh yeah, the Shaper Box thing. That's where we're at. Altar Boy too. Altar
Boy, yeah, it's a great fix. That I don't know. For me, clearly, I'm really vanilla. I'm really boring. I'm just Serum, Anna 2, maybe some Contact. Stephen Slate. Yeah, I started as a band, demos, then went into video game composition. So I've come from quite the orchestral scoring side of everything.
Dude, wait, that makes me so happy to hear, because I recently, within the past year, have gotten really into kind of music that's almost like scoring. After watching do you know the show on HBO called Euphoria?
No.
Okay, well, do you know who Labyrinth is, the producer?
Yeah.
Okay, so he produced and composed all the music for the soundtrack of that. And after watching that show and hearing the soundtrack, I was like, oh my God, I got to do this. So I started making like scary music, like orchestral, so I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Yeah, it's good fun. I'm a horror nerd. So I was kind of like, I started out doing horror stuff.
Dude, you got to send me some of the stuff, because I would actually really love to hear.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I could probably send you links, and you can watch it on streaming services, a lot of it as well, at Amazon. I've got a funny movie, which it got released in the UK. It's called Ibiza Undead. Ibiza's like the European equivalent of Spring Break.
Okay.
But so when they released it in the US, they rebranded it as Zombie Spring Breakers. And it got rebranded again for Japanese release, and the translation from Japan was Ecstasy of the Undead.
Oh my, I actually kind of like that one though.
Yeah, and you know what? They made the DVDs way cooler in Japan. Yeah, it's basically EDM mixed with horror score. That's basically the soundtrack.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, dude, I'm so in. You have to send me some. Yeah, I would love to hear it.
Oh, definitely. Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll do. Candace, thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this interview. It's been amazing.
Thank you for having me, man.
For anyone who's watching, where can they follow you on social media?
At Candace_Sosa on both Instagram and Twitter.
Do you have any new releases coming out soon that we should check out?
Yes, I do have a new single coming out soon. I'm unaware of the date yet. We still have to do proper planning for it. But the song is called Emotion. I just shot a music video to it, and I'm so proud of this one. I think everybody's going to be blown away by the visual. So I'm just
awesome.
Like really looking forward to that. Hopefully end of November. I'll give a release date soon enough, but yeah, keep a lookout, because it's going to be unreal.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. And hope to catch you soon.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thank you again for having me.